You know that saying, all musicians are broke? If you're anything like me, that's probably discouraged you from taking music full on as a career, and it probably doesn't help that your friends and your family remind you of the same thing. I want to assure you that this does not have to be true. It's 2024. There's so many different ways to monetize your music and your musical knowledge now. So I want to share with you my musical journey and what I've learned along the way and all the mistakes that I've made. I currently have a business where I teach musicians how to monetize their music, and that business is doing anywhere from 40 to 60K per month at the time of this recording. But this is where it all started. I learned how to play guitar. This guitar right here was owned by my dad. He's not here with us anymore, but he taught me how to play classical guitar when I was in 6th grade. That was the first time I was introduced to guitar, and I was hooked. I wanted to learn every single song that he could teach me. And it was crazy because if you know anything about classical guitar, it's not like having a pick and like strumming. It's more like finger picking and like sweeping, and it's like the craziest thing ever. If you know any classical guitarists, like kudos to them because that shit's hard. So that's where it started. I learned classical guitar, I got into middle school, and I started playing with rock bands. I learned how to play acoustic guitar, and I learned those classic songs like Seven Nation Army or Nirvana. Those were the first songs that I learned, and I started getting more and more into metal music, and so I started playing in bands. And so through middle school and high school, I was playing in rock bands, and I started getting really serious about music to the point where I remember when I was a sophomore in high school, I got arrested and I got a felony. It's all expunged now, but I got arrested because I stole a bunch of band equipment from my school so that we could practice for our band, and it was insane, but it was a good time. That's how serious with music I was. I was stealing instruments from my school so that we could practice, right? And at one point, we wanted to record songs, and I had no idea how to do that. I didn't know if we needed to get into a massive studio. I didn't know what kind of gear we needed. And so I got a DAW, right? I got Ableton at first, and I just could not figure out Ableton, because if anybody knows Ableton, it's confusing for somebody who's brand new because there's a live view and there's a record view. Anyways, I went into that for a while and I recorded a couple things. It was cool, but I couldn't figure it out. I bought a Mac and I ended up getting GarageBand that came with it. When I got GarageBand, I was like super hooked into this thing. I was like, wait a minute, you can make bass lines, you can make drum beats, you can make all this stuff on my computer. So I don't need these nerds. I don't need these band members. At this point, you know, like everybody, a lot of the people in my band, they were like, they wanted to play music. They wanted the fame. They wanted the notoriety, but they just were never serious about it because every time we practiced, they'd be messing around and it would frustrate me because I was super serious about it. I'd run around, I'd be like, drummer, do this, bass player, do this. And I was just the one that was serious and running around doing everything. So from there, I got very deep into music production. I started making my own beats, and when I realized I could do everything on my own, I just went down this rabbit hole of music production. I learned as much as I could, and I truly, truly loved music so much, but I was always discouraged because my parents had always told me, my friends had always told me, music's not a real career. Just keep it as a hobby, do it as something you love, and get a real job. And I'm sure you've probably heard that in your life as well. And so I was constantly torn between, do I listen to them and do I go get a job? Do I go to college? Do I do something I don't like? Or do I go into music? It always felt so risky because of what they told me and what I've heard from everybody. And, you know, they're not wrong. A lot of musicians do stay broke, but it doesn't have to be that way. That's the thing. Everybody thinks that they just need to perform, they need to be this big famous person, and that's not necessary if you want to make a living with music in 2024. There's so many different avenues. The thing was that I just kept switching between all these different avenues. First, I'd be like, okay, I want to play live, I want to tour, and then it was like, I want to make beats for artists. I want to be my own artist. I want to make music for TV. I want to make music for film. I want to do it for video games. I want to do it for trailers. And every time I would start something new, I would try it for a few months and then I would quit and then find another shiny object, something cool where I was like, oh, this sounds like more promising. This sounds more promising. And I kept switching. So every time I would get just a little bit deeper into one possible career path, I would start over and switch and do another thing, start over, and this constant cycle of never giving it enough effort to where I just kept starting over and over and over and over. And I know a lot of people are going through that right now. And I'll let you know that there is opportunity in every single one of these lanes. They are all possible, but they are not possible if you try to do it all at once in the beginning. I think a huge misconception people have now is they constantly talk about different streams of revenue, tons and tons of different streams of revenue. I think this is a massive myth. And they're missing a very vital piece to this. And I totally get it. There's many millionaires out there that have different revenue streams, but here's the thing that they don't tell you is that in the beginning, all those people, they focused on growing one thing till it was self-sustainable, whether that means a team did it, an automation, it grew to a point where it could sustain itself and it didn't need the owner as much. From there, the owner can continue and find another revenue stream, but until it's grown to a certain point, it still needs your attention. And if you continuously switch and start over and over and over again, you're always going to be left at the beginning with nothing to show for it. And that's what I did for the longest time. So at this point, I had been producing for maybe like 10 years or so. And just to fast forward, there was this one point where I finally landed a good, decent job. I was an IV tech in a hospital. And when I got this job, it was my first real job, like real good job, quote unquote, good paying job. And I just bought a house for the first time. I just had my first kid, my first and only kid. It was this point in my life where it was like, okay, so everything needs to be set. There's someone in my life that needs me more than I do, and that's my daughter. And it was kind of, my back was up against a wall at this point, and it was my final Hail Mary. I was like, I either need to figure out and get help to figure out this music career and make this thing a reality, or I just need to throw in the towel and call it a hobby for the rest of my life. And so this was my final attempt. And I knew up until this point, I kept trying everything by myself because I had this mindset of like, well, I should do everything myself. I should do everything the cheap way. But the thing they don't tell you about that is that doing it the quote unquote cheap way, trying to save a few bucks in the moment, means that you spend years of opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is one of your biggest expenses, and it's like a phantom expense, so you don't see it, but you don't realize it. So I spent 10 years trying to figure out some sort of music career. And instead of growing my business within those 10 years, I kept starting over and starting over and starting over for 10 years. When I finally hit this point, I was like, I need to get help or I need to throw in the towel. And I finally hired a coach. I hired a coach to help me get through it. The funny part is, it's not that funny, but the thing is, when I hired my coach, I quit my job 5 months later. 5 months. So if I would have just done that in the beginning instead of wasting 10 years, I could have been growing a business and been 10 years ahead, but instead, I spent 10 years trying to figure it out and get it off the ground. That's 10 years I could have made all this money, done all this stuff, grown my career. Instead, I threw it away because I tried to go the cheap route, yet ended up costing me more. So, funny thing about this coach is it changed my life completely. When I first started, I was buying courses here and there for a few $100s. But the thing about buying a few $100 course is it's cool. It's like, okay, cool, I got this course. But a few $100s just isn't enough skin in the game for you to uproot all your bad daily habits, drop everything that's going on in your life, and actually focus and be very devoted in what you have going on. Because if you're working a job, you make up a few $100 in like a few days, right? So instead of being like, oh, I need to stop, I need to change everything, I would just wait and get another paycheck and be like, all right, it's fine, I remade that $300. This time when I hired a coach, I felt like a big shot. I was like getting onto the call and I was like, I am ready to drop $1,000, let's go. Got to the end of the call and my coach was like, investment is $10,000. My jaw just dropped. I was like, that's 10 times more than I was ready to spend. Before saying no, like most people would, I had to analyze two things. Either way, I'm making a decision, whether I move forward or if I don't do anything about it. Those are both decisions and I have to choose one of them. I weighed my options. One thing was, if I paid $10,000 now, sure, I don't know if this is gonna work. This may be a complete loss, but the cost of not doing it would be I worked a job until I was 65, hated it the whole time, finally retire at 65, I'd be too old to enjoy my life. And inflation would have been insane by then to where I would be living so scarcely off of savings and 401k and pensions that it wouldn't even be fun. And then I'd get sick and I wouldn't be able to afford my health bills and I'd be in a retirement home and I'd die. And that was a cost I just was not willing to take. Now, most people won't think about it this deep. That is truly the cost of inaction. If you don't do anything about this now, And that is the cost. You make a decision either way. So I took out a loan. I took out money from my savings. I borrowed money from my family. I made the investment. I made the 10K investment. I put 10K into something I didn't have. I spent money I didn't have. And that put so much on me, so much burning desire on me that I was like, I have to make this work. Failing is not an option. And so I did every single thing that coach said. He made me do so many uncomfortable things I've never done, like doing a live webinar, like setting up all this stuff. And it was hard, right? But at those times where I would have given up if I only invested a few $100s, I didn't give up because I was like, this is not an option. I have to make it happen. And so I did everything he said. 5 months later, I quit my job. And that's the only reason I'm in this position today. Otherwise, I wouldn't be making this video. I'd be at my job. I'd be working a 9 to 5. I wouldn't be helping anybody. My life would be completely different based on that one decision I made. And nobody thinks of it this way. But those are the types of actions that you have to take if you want to grow your own business. You want to do something risky like music. Because if you don't, if you think and make decisions like most people, you're going to have a life most people have. And if you look around you, do those people have the lifestyle that you want? Ask yourself that. And if it's not, then you have to do something different. So this coaching program completely changed my life. What he taught me was how to sell high-ticket products over the phone. And I started selling beats to artists over the phone. Instead of going on BeatStars and selling things for like $30, I'd put people on the phone and I'd be like, hey, I can make you a custom single 100% tailored to you. It'll be $1,000. And the people that were serious said yes. And the people that weren't serious said no. And that's perfectly fine because I don't want to work with them anyways. Those few yeses were enough for me to make up everything. Think about how many $30 beats you would have to sell in order to get like to 3K a month. Whereas if I sold 3 custom beats over the phone because it was more personal, I hit my mark. I hit my goal. And so everybody thinks it's completely impossible and it's not, nobody's going to do that. It's because you suck at sales. So you have to learn. There's skill sets that we're lacking in, and instead of getting better at them, we make excuses and say that nobody can afford it. So from there, I learned a lot of skills. I learned sales, I learned all this stuff, and I kind of looked at his coaching program and I was like, why couldn't I do something like this for myself? And so I created a coaching program where I helped music producers with their music production. And then I created a program where I helped music producers sell beats just like I did. And then from there, I started noticing like, there's so many music coaches out there, right? There's so many creative coaches out there, but they're charging like $60, $100, $200 an hour and they're selling their time. And so I showed them how to do the same thing I did and sell high ticket, sell products for like $5,000, $8,000, $10,000, and everything changed for them. So that's the position I'm in today. I'm now in a place where I'm helping other musicians educate other people, making this huge difference. It's this ripple effect, right? And people on the internet look at coaching like they're like, oh, that's a scam. That's shady. It's like, that's a broke mindset. Think about your favorite athlete. Think about anybody great. Wouldn't it be weird if they didn't have a coach, right? So why do you think you're a special unicorn and that you can be great without a coach? There's so many coaches in my life now. I spend so much money on coaching because I spent that first $10,000. Now when a coach comes along and I need something help, I'm like, take my money, take my money, take my money, take my money. Because I know that if I want to attract a client that pays me, is willing, is happy to pay me, I have to be that type of person as well. And I've learned so much that everybody out there who's trying to learn for themselves, they're trying to figure out themselves, oh, I'll just go at it alone. It'll take me some trial and error. Imagine this. There's people like me right now that are going and we're not even going to try. We're just going to pay a person that knows and they're going to teach us exactly how to do it in a couple months. And then I learn that skill and then I pay another person, learn another skill, pay a person, learn another skill. It's the absolute cheat code to pay somebody and have them teach you. There's no way somebody who's going about it alone is ever going to catch up, right? And so I'm so happy to spend so much money on education now, it's not even funny. I probably paid more than like most people's degrees and stuff like that, but I get immediate returns. The cool thing about this business is like really helped me realize that musicians are very self-centered. I remember when all I could care about was my music and nobody else. Like it was okay if I went broke. It was okay if like I couldn't provide for my family. It's like, what? As soon as I had my daughter, that all changed for me. But that's the way most musicians think. They're like, it's just about me, it's about my music, I don't care if I go broke, I don't care if I can support my family, I don't care if I can support my parents. That's the worst way to think, and I didn't realize it until I started helping other people. And seeing other people's businesses blow up and make so much money, they quit their jobs, they do music full time, it's such a different feeling that you don't think that you ever wanted. You didn't think that helping somebody and changing their lives was ever on your radar until you do it, and it's the greatest feeling in the world. It's something I can't really describe. And I just learned so many things, like communication. Like, communication is a huge thing, but none of us musicians are good at it. Why do we not practice that? Name the last time you went a full day without speaking. It doesn't happen, right? It's a skill set that we use every single day, so why not be really good at something that we have to use frequently? I learned sales, but the biggest thing is I changed the way that I think and the way that I make decisions. So as you can tell from this video, I don't think a lot of people would make decisions like that, right? They don't analyze what would happen if you don't do it, what's the cost of inaction. But being around the people that thought like this really opened my mind up to like so many different ways of thinking, that this is how we run a business. This is how we create success in our lives. It's not impossible. It's just because if you think like a broke person, you're going to get broke person results. And when I say broke, I don't mean like the girth of your wallet. I mean like the way that you think. A broken mentality. Broken mentality constantly thinks about, well, let me save some pennies, let me save up some shoebox money. Whereas if you have an abundant mindset, you know that money is going to come back, so you might as well borrow it, learn the skill, and expand yourself so that you can have better opportunities. So what I'm saying now is, I think we all think we need to be the next Dr. Dre in order to live off of our music, but it's not true. It's 2024 and there's so many different ways to do it. You can make music for film, for TV, for artists. You can sell your own music. You can be independent. You can teach other people how to do music and get paid for your knowledge. And the cool thing about that is, like, you don't have to be an absolute expert. You don't have to be Dr. Dre. You just have to be a little bit better than the person that wants to learn from you. So if you're just one level above the person behind you, they would be happy to pay you in order to learn, especially if they're serious in music. Think about where you are today. Maybe you've been playing an instrument for 3 years, 5 years. Think about yourself 3 years ago. How valuable would it be for you 3 years ago to know what you know today, right? And there's a bunch of people like that who want to learn from you, and you can make a lot of money teaching other people and changing a lot of lives. There's a big stigma, of course, in the online space right now with coaching, but again, think about it. Imagine if you didn't have teachers. Imagine if Michael Jordan never had a coach. Imagine if someone in the Olympics didn't have a coach. Wouldn't that be weird? So why is it weird that there's online coaches? Sure, maybe there's some that are shady and maybe that you're jaded, but it doesn't change the concept. Every great person has mentors, has coaches. So that's my story. I just wanted to share that with you guys. There's so many different ways to make money off of your music, off of your passion, your creativity. If you want to learn how to sell your knowledge as a musician, teach other people, and charge high ticket for it, I will leave a free training down below so that you can watch it, check it out, and feel free to book a call with me if you feel like you want to learn how to do that in depth and actually change your life. But regardless, I hope this was helpful in any way possible. Please subscribe if you would like. If you found this helpful and you like this content, subscribe, share it with your friends, and I will see you in the next video.